This is Wes Turner with Tadlock Roofing. I'm in zip code 32806. This is going to be an architectural shingle system at a pitch of a 612. The homeowner had initially filed a insurance claim with his insurance company citing hail damage. I wanted to go over a couple variables, just highlighting all the damage I found. I know the adjuster has initially been out, but I just want to go over a couple things. On this right side elevation here, that'd be the right side if you're facing the home, you do have an overhanging tree. A lot of the times what we're seeing with the tree is debris is falling. So you have branches, twigs, acorns if applicable, and a lot of times these things are causing damage that looks similar to a hail strike. So there's several areas in this elevation here that looks like it could be hail damage, but it's really impossible to tell with the tree. So what I'm gonna do is kind of go over everything I found this side and over and kind of present that in video format. There also is pretty bad blistering on this roof. So blistering is an indication of two things: improper ventilation, and as you can see, they only have the 2 4-foot off-ridge vents on the rear elevation, or shingle quality. So there is a lot of blistering going on, and that can also be confused for hail damage. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things that I found on this roof. One thing to note: this rear elevation here is facing the water. It is a second story. So a lot of the times in these areas we're seeing wind damage. In this case, I think it's more passive. I think it's probably a passive wind damage, and something might be attributable to shingle quality as well. But on the front, I found very little. So I didn't see much. Once again, that's most likely because this side is facing the water. It's more exposed. So I'll go over everything that I kind of found. So this is kind of a lot of what I'm seeing. A lot of the times this is going to boil down to a shingle quality, manufacturer, and install. But the fact that it's all along this rear elevation, I found very few on the front, is an indication that it's most likely a passive wind damage. So this corner, as you can see, is lifted up. This here resembles a hail strike to me. It doesn't look like blistering as a result of inadequate ventilation. This looks like a strike. As you can see here, same kind of deal. This entire shingle set is lifted up. And as I said earlier, one thing to notice, a lot of times these shingles just don't adhere. So they'll do the install, and as you can see, there's that glue line under there, and that glue line just won't catch and the shingle won't lay down. But the fact that this is all across the rear elevation and not the front, I found very little in the front, is an indicator that it's related to wind damage. This is a hip and ridge cap. This isn't a great indicator because a lot of times these corners will come up over time, or just they initially don't lay down. So I don't put too much weight on this. This is just taking in the whole picture. These corners are lifted up as well. Same thing here. Every time you have a long line, the shingle set is just able to be lifted up. Corner bad. Here. Same thing here. And these shingles are also very brittle, which I'll demonstrate over there later. As you can see here, these are the adjusters or inspectors markings indicating no wind damage, no hail damage on this rear elevation. This is a pretty bad one. This one just comes right up. Same thing here. So every shingle set that has a line on it, pretty much that whole section is able to be lifted up. These two areas here, looks like a minor hail strike, again possibly blistering, but just taking everything into consideration, you do have the wind damage and potential hail damage as well. This also looks like a strike as opposed to blistering, and there's a small area right here. Another thing to look for too in wind damage is to look at the very edge of the shingle set. So those granules are pushed up by that wind constantly hitting, and you can see that this fiberglass mat is exposed. On a roof this young, This boils down to wind damage. It's not a shingle quality per se or installation. When you're on a roof this young and you see that the fiberglass mat threads are kind of hanging out, and you're on a second story elevation rather, and there's a lake in the back, that's going to indicate wind damage. Here, I wanted to point out this area. This is an area that is wind damaged, and I just wanted to also point this out to indicate the brittleness of the shingles. There really is no flexibility, and the shingles just bend and crack. In that case, if you're performing a repair and the shingles are very brittle, a lot of times you're performing more damage than good. So you're performing the repair and you're doing more damage in performing that repair. And obviously, when you fix the problem, you want to keep it isolated. You don't want to cause more damage. Once again, this is Wes Turner with Tadlock Roofing. Just brief summary. Most of the damage I found was on this rear elevation here. We are in a zip code that did sustain hail damage. That's 32806. But I also did find a lot of what I believe to be passive wind damage, as there's nothing really on this front elevation. I'm going to hop down to the lower elevation, just go over everything I found.